Hey everybody, Michelle Morrow here, and I wanted to come on and answer a lot of the questions that have been asked several times to me and to my campaign. So that's why I'm here, because I believe that North Carolina deserves transparency. You deserve a senator who is actually going to be connected to you, answering your questions, and it's something that I have done really for the last 11 years, and that's what I intend to do still as your senator should you elect me next Tuesday. So I'm going to give people a couple of minutes to come on because I said I was going to start at 7. But it has been a joy to travel the state and to see everybody. I feel like it's been a reunion in a lot of areas because just 15 months ago is when I completed my race for superintendent of public instruction. But I'm going to just dive in, and I have the chat on. So if you have questions and you want to put them in the chat, I'm going to try to manage that. My campaign manager is doing me a great service in running around doing stuff in another county tonight. And so it's just me running this. So I apologize if I can't keep up with the chat, but if you have a specific question that I'm not addressing, please put it in there. And I can, even if you put your email, I can email you that answer. So ladies and gentlemen, we have 5 more days until, actually 6, until we have election day, which is next Tuesday, March 3rd. And so it is so important. This Senate race is not just about this Senate seat. It is super important that we keep the majority in the Senate. We have an opportunity in North Carolina to actually increase the majority that we have in the House because we have redistricted District 1, and now it is a very winnable seat. So whoever comes through that very heated and very full primary out in District 1, we are going to work really hard to get them over the line and to defeat Don Davis and to take that extra seat. But in addition, whoever is at the top of this ticket on March 4th, you need someone who has already been connected to the people of North Carolina. You need someone that is going to be pushing the narrative of the America First agenda, fighting for your families and your freedoms and your future. And that is who I am. That is what I've done for the last 11 years. I'm going to tell you some of the questions that I've gotten many times. The first of which is, why did you get in this race? And I'm telling you, it's because this race is so incredibly important. And the reason for a primary is to select the candidate who has the best chance at beating the opponent in the other party. And in my case, I am absolutely the best person to do that job. Why? Because 15 months ago, I received 2.7 million votes from you all, the America First patriots that want to see truth and justice and righteousness returned to our state and returned to our schools and our churches and every facet of society. And so when I saw in November that Michael Whatley and Don Brown were losing by double digits to Roy Cooper, and when I look at the fact that for 40 years, Roy Cooper has been in public office, and 13 times he has beaten the typical Republican candidate, I knew that it would not be hard for him to defeat them a 14th time. And that's exactly who Michael Whatley and Don Brown are. And I'm not saying this as though there's anything wrong with them as people, anything wrong about their platform, but we need some strategy. How many of you in the Republican Party are tired of losing? When we stand on the right side of everything, aren't you tired of losing statewide races when President Trump was winning by larger and larger margins every time he was on the ballot? Well, I am. And the reason why we have been losing is because we have not been fighting as a team. We need someone who is going to go toe to toe with Roy Cooper, who is going to expose the dangerous agenda that he imposed on us during COVID and during his time as governor and even as attorney general. And that needs to be exposed. Why? Because North Carolinians, it is our duty to our fellow American citizens to protect the rest of the country from Roy Cooper. We must keep him out of Washington, D.C., and I believe I am the best person with the strongest chance to do that. That's why I'm running, because I love God. I love this state. I love this country. And I believe that it is our duty to leave our country better than we found it for the next generation, for the generations to come. We want to leave a legacy of freedom and of courage and of American greatness. And that's why I'm running. The other question I've gotten a lot is, what are your qualifications? What makes you qualified to be a senator? Well, the founding fathers determined that who we wanted up to be our elected officials, to be representing our voice and the will of the people, were people that were of the people and sent by the people and were working for the people. Right now, two-thirds of the people in Congress are lawyers. I don't have anything against lawyers, but I don't think that the founding fathers intended that we were going to be a nation of lawyers, that we're making all of the decisions. We have so many decisions to be made that are pertinent to all of your God given inalienable rights. And I think it's time that we have a little bit of diversity in background, in experience, in perspective. And I bring that to this table. As a nurse, I have a plan to get government, big pharma, and the insurance company out of your exam room. You will agree with me that every time the federal government says we're going to do X, Y, or Z and give you a new service, which is what they've done with healthcare when they took it over with Obamacare, as soon as the federal government gets involved, it becomes less effective, less efficient, and more expensive. So we have less quality healthcare. It's not as available. And part of that is because the supply and demand, because now we have just been invaded by over 22 million people that are not giving into this system, but they are taking from it. That's a whole other story we'll talk about in a moment. But as a nurse, I have seen the quality of our healthcare diminish, and the ability to even get in to see a doctor we have to wait 2 and 3 months, and the cost has skyrocketed. And that is all because of the greed of big pharma, the greed of government, and the overreach, and the hoops that we have to jump through, rather than just making decisions between you and your provider. We need to go back to that. And as a nurse, I have a plan. I've already written it out, and it is a way that we are going to save incredible amounts of money. And when we talk about Medicaid, we also need to start those Medicaid people having to give monthly, just like you and I do when we pay for private insurance. We should be able to choose insurance across state lines. We should only have catastrophic insurance, and then we should look back at doing a personal, just funding our private doctors out of our pocket. That's something that we need to look at if we want local, affordable, and quality healthcare. There is no reason in 2026 why people have to travel more than an hour in the state of North Carolina to get excellent healthcare. I'm going to change that as your senator. I have a plan. So as a nurse, I bring that to the table. As a former missionary to Mexico, 3 of my children were born in Mexico City. I have seen the detrimental impact of an open border, not just for our country and our safety and our economy, but also for those families south of the border. This is why I started getting involved in politics in 2015. It was because I wanted to share with people the detrimental impact of sending young men into the United States to disappear into our country, leaving women and children behind in the countries south of our border. I have a plan. I've already submitted what it looks like to close this border. Keep it closed is what President Trump has done in an amazing way. But also, how do we get immigration reform? Because we have people that have been waiting 12 and 14 and 16 years because they've come in legally, and because our court system has been overrun with people that have come in here illegally. It's time to deport all of them. My idea, so because I'll go into this too. One of the big questions has been, what is your plan for how are we going to deport people? How are we going to get back on top of knowing who is in our country and what their intentions are? I'll tell you this. I would be expanding the knowledge and the promotion of what our Department of our DHS has been doing, which is they have been offering monetary rewards to people to self deport. In other words, it was up to $3,000 per person and a plane ticket to your home country if you self deported. And if you do that, and if we gave them a date by which they had to do that, then we would allow them to come back after 12 months have passed, and they would be put at the front of the line for new people coming back in. I think that's wise. Secondarily, what I think we need to do is those people that have been in our country for 10 years and they came illegally, if they have not broken any laws, then we should allow them to pay a penalty, so many thousands of dollars per year that they've been here illegally, and they must sign up to become an American citizen, give them a date. If they don't do it by that date, then they are open to being deported. And if you are deported, you don't do it on your own. If you are deported by our government, you can never, ever come back to the United States of America, period. There must be a consequence. The third option that we need to do is we need to say, if you sign up by this date, I'm sorry, if you sign up by this date, then we are giving you this amount of time, but it should be mandatory that anyone that has come to our country illegally, once you even become a citizen, you should never be able to receive local, state, or federal social program funds ever, because you have come here in breaking our laws. So if you become a citizen, you still are not able to participate in our social services. Those are ideas. I also have ideas for things on the border and how we can manage knowing who people are with their fingerprints, with photo IDs, and with giving them social security numbers, where the first three numbers, instead of being a number, has letters that are CIP, which means citizen in process. And that means you are a part of that system. And if you break a law while you are here, if you do anything violent, then you are deported and you can never come back to the United States of America. But you have a certain amount of time to become a naturalized citizen. And that's what we want. We want people who want to be Americans, who want to invest their skills and their talents and their passion into our communities. But until we get everyone out that is here illegally and we stop funding their lifestyle, we cannot support this any longer, ladies and gentlemen. It needs to end. In every other country, if you're there illegally, then you have consequences to be paid. And I've told people time and again, when I was in Mexico, I was there on a visa, on a tourism visa, and it was mandatory that we go to the border every year in order to get that visa redone. And if we were found to have not done that, we would have been deported from Mexico and forced to not be able to return. It is not wise, it's not safe, and we don't have a sovereign nation if we are not going to obey and follow our immigration laws. So that is where I stand on immigration. So we're talking about my qualifications, whether it's immigration, whether it's talking about healthcare and being a nurse. I have great ideas and great insights for how we can solve things practically. Then let's talk about education, another really big issue, because while it is wonderful that North Carolina is number one in business, it is absolutely atrocious that we are 43rd out of 50 states for our education. The United States of America is 34th out of all of our developed nations when we're talking about education. There is no reason why we are not number one. And I am going to be if I am your senator, I want to be working on education, because I think the U.S. Department of Education should be functioning as a resource. It should be an overseer. I think we should have a national expectation for curriculum, and that we should not have a huge difference in education from Missouri to North Carolina to Chicago or to Illinois and elsewhere. If you are going to be getting federal funding, then we need to have federal expectations for our K through 12 education. And we are going to make sure that we are bring prayer back into our schools. We are teaching the truth about history, we're teaching the truth about science, and we are going to make sure that every student has mastered reading and writing and math before they have left the 5th grade. And we are going to expand the dual enrollment process so that every 8th grader across this nation, from 8th grade to 12th grade, they can have an opportunity to get certifications, to do a work and study program once they're in high school, and so that they can leave high school with the ability to be able to go out and to provide for themselves, and we can build up our rural communities. Understand, North Carolina, the percentage of rural area square footage that we are second only to the state of Texas. That's how much rural land we have. And we must rebuild these rural communities. We must make it so that our children can stay in the community where they were born and raise generations of North Carolinians. And we can keep the culture of each one of our counties because they truly do have an individualized culture. So, as your senator, I am going to bring my experience as an educator, my experience in running for superintendent, and what I learned about the K through 12 system throughout the last 10 years. I'm going to bring that. And so not just will it benefit North Carolina, but it will benefit the entire country. Let's talk about a little bit more about experience. I am the only person running for US Senate who has experience in the actual process of drafting legislation, of getting people to support legislation by speaking and preparing rallies, by running across the state for years, getting tens of thousands of people to sign petitions so that our legislative body knows what your opinion is and what the people of North Carolina want them to do in the legislature. I'm the only one that has gone to countless hearings and spoken at committee hearings so that I can talk to the actual lawmakers so that they understand what your voice is as people. And I went and sat in the debates, and I went and reported to you to tell you how your elected officials were voting for different issues. I've done that, ladies and gentlemen, on my own time as a volunteer. I was not paid to do that. I didn't have a position, but I will do the same thing for you when I am your senator, because that is the job of an elected official, to be connected to you, to tell you what decisions are being made, to ask you what you need from your federal government. So when we talk about qualifications, I am absolutely the most qualified to be able to go and to represent you and your families and your liberties and your desire and your rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Because quite frankly, that is what the elected official's number one job is. It is to make sure that you are safe from threats, foreign and domestic, and it is to protect your God given rights. That's why we are here. We're not here to serve special interests. We're not here to serve the NGOs. We're not here to serve a party, for goodness sake. We are here as an elected official to serve your constituents, to serve the people of North Carolina and of the United States of America. That's what I've been doing for 11 years, and that's what I would be honored to continue to do for you in Washington. So that's another question. Qualifications. Why are you running? What is your stance on immigration? I talked a little bit about healthcare. The other thing is, people are asking, what do I think about President Trump and his tariffs, and what are the plans for the economy? I think President Trump is brilliant. And I think that I know he has surrounded himself with other businessmen who are brilliant. And if we look at what has just happened in the last year, we have lowered our federal trade deficit by billions of dollars. We have a GDP that they never thought possible, with the GDP growth being over 5% in this last quarter. Biden never got over 2.6% in the entire 4 years that he was in office. What we're seeing is more jobs in the marketplace. What we're seeing is an enthusiasm and an excitement. He just talked last night about the decrease in gas prices. I'm seeing every time I'm going to the grocery store that everything has a decreased price on it. And ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand something. What President Trump is doing is a major correction. He is correcting bad policies that have been affecting us negatively for the last 40 years. We are not going to see all of the incredible benefits from that immediately. It's going to take some time, but we are moving in the right direction. And I will tell you, there is so much fraud, waste, and abuse. My promise to you is that as your senator, I will not allow one more increase in a dollar of tax money from our federal government until we have a complete accounting for where your tax money has been going. You have been being robbed blind by our government. When you look at the fraud and the abuse and the waste that we found in one state in our union, when just one 23-year-old went and started investigating daycare centers in Minneapolis, Minnesota, they now have found several billion dollars of fraud in one state in our union. It's happening everywhere. That is your money. That belongs in your pocket. That belongs putting a roof over your family's heads. So the other thing is, I have lived on one salary and raised 5 children and fought to pay our bills and keep our mortgage going when things were very tough. We've driven old cars and we've not been able to take vacations and we haven't eaten out. I understand what it means as a missionary to spend other people's money that they're giving to you. And as your senator, I will respect the fact that I understand you are working 40 and 50 and 60 hours a week to pay your taxes and to pay for your family and to provide for your family. Ladies and gentlemen, we must return the middle class to the United States of America. It has been being destroyed. The hardworking, honest, law abiding citizens, we have been being abused. Our compassion and our empathy for others has been abused. It's time for the money to go to the United States citizens. It's time for us to put our seniors and our veterans first. It's time for Americans to be the ones that are considered above all else when any decision is being made in Washington, D.C. And you have my solemn vow that that is what will happen. And when it's not, I will be telling you, because I will be coming on twice a month to tell you what's happening. And I intend to have in all 14 districts, congressional districts, I plan to have offices so that you have someone that you can go and you can talk to and you can ask questions of. And when you have a need from your senator, that is where you will go. It's going to be somewhere that is local to you because I will work for you. And I'm going to promise this as well. One of the biggest problems that we have is electing people who go up to Washington, D.C., and they forget about you. I have been engaged with you, the people of North Carolina, for the last 11 years. If you will choose me to be your ambassador to D.C., I will work in D.C., but my life is in North Carolina. My family is in North Carolina. I love the state of North Carolina. I will be going there to do the work, and I will be coming home to live amongst you. It is time for us to hold people accountable. Where has Michael Watley been? Where has Don Brown been when he wasn't asking for your vote or asking for your money? I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, for 11 years, I have been traveling the state. Anytime anyone would ask me to come and speak at a school board meeting or a county commissioner meeting, go and talk at a hearing downtown, come to a rally, sign a petition, start a petition, come on live stream and talk about what was happening during COVID. I did that for 18 months every single night, praying for people, praying for our state, praying for our nation, and encouraging you to be engaged in the civics process. Because I truly believe that the United States is the greatest freedom experiment in the history of the world. But we will not remain free if we only vote twice a year in a primary and a general election. We must be engaged in this process. We're seeing what has happened when we haven't been. And I want to bring that realism to you so that we can take back our state. We can train up the next generation to understand it's not only a responsibility to be civically engaged, it is an incredible blessing to be able to be engaged in that process. So Franny's saying, Trump endorsed Wiley. Why shouldn't I vote for Wiley when Trump endorsed him? Well, I want you to understand that's a great question, Franny. And that's another question I've gotten. I want you guys to understand something. President Trump, what does President Trump want? President Trump wants to hold this Senate seat, and he wants someone who is America first and is going to be pushing for all of the agendas that you voted for him to pass. We need to go up there and we need to be able to codify all of the executive orders that President Trump has put in place. We need to make sure that those become laws. We need to make sure that the left never takes control of our Congress, of our House, of our Senate again, so that they can just impeach President Trump. And the reason why Whatley is just not going to be able to beat Roy Cooper, and it's to this end. Michael Whatley has never run for any public office. And if you think about what President Trump is doing, I've always shared hard truths with you. This is a hard truth. President Trump is very busy. He's basically running the world, right? And when he asks people's opinion about who he should endorse, he goes to his political consultants that are in DC, and specifically he has them that are focused on different areas of the country. Well, what he has been learning about North Carolina has come from the mouth of Michael Watt and from Jason Simmons, both of whom want President Trump to think that they are doing an excellent job in North Carolina. But I will tell you, Michael Whatley was named by President Trump to be the recovery czar to get the money to the people of Western North Carolina because Roy Cooper did not get them their FEMA money. I was just in Western North Carolina last weekend, and in one of the counties that someone was speaking, and I was speaking there as well, they said, do you know how many homes have been rebuilt? There were 1,200 homes. No, I'm sorry, 120 in that area. And do you know how many have been rebuilt in the last year and a half? Zero. Michael Whatley was told by President Trump, you are to be the recovery czar for Western North Carolina. He has totally been invisible to the people of North Carolina, to our neighbors in Western North Carolina. There's the other problem. When you have people that are your political consultants who work under Michael Whatley, of course, they're going to tell President Trump to pick Michael Whatley. Why? Because they all are going to benefit if he is the candidate. Understand something else. People have asked me, oh, you don't have millions of dollars. How are you going to win this seat? Well, two things. No one should be purchasing an elected position. But here's the other thing. Michael Whatley was endorsed by President Trump in July when Laura Trump said that she was not going to run. She was going to stay home and take care of her children, which I respect highly. But where has he been for the last 7 months? He's been nowhere. He has not been asking for your vote. He has not been coming and asking you what he can do for you. What has he been doing? He's used the millions of dollars that were laid on his lap to ask you for more money. That's the only letters I've seen. It's the texts that I've been getting. It's the huge, 8 by 11 inch, handouts. He thinks that he is owed the vote because President Trump endorsed him. So think about this. President Trump would not be disappointed when I, Michelle Morrow, who is the most bold, outspoken, loyal President Trump, America First supporter for the last 11 years, would be the Senate candidate, and I would take the seat. Understand, he doesn't know the climate of what is happening politically in North Carolina because he's being told by people who want him to think that they're doing a great job, how wonderful everything is in North Carolina. Think about this. With Michael Whatley as the NC GOP chair and RNC chair, North Carolina lost more statewide races with President Trump at the top of the ticket than we lost in the 5 statewide races prior to President Trump ever running. So why do we think that Michael Watley, who's never run for anything, who is not connected to the people of North Carolina, just because he has an endorsement? The whole point is President Trump wants someone who is going to go and is going to fight for the America First principles. I've been doing that for 11 years. He will not be disappointed with me as the candidate. And something else you need to consider: where has President Trump been campaigning for Michael Watley? He's not. And in fact, just a few weeks ago, one of President Trump's former political advisors came on and talked with Matt Gaetz down in Florida and said Michael Watley needs to drop out because he's not going to be able to carry the state. And as I said at the beginning, I don't know when you came on, this is more than just the Senate race. This is about winning this entire state. And as your Senate candidate, I will fight for every single Republican on the ballot. On March 4th, every single person that wins becomes the absolute best candidate for that job, and we are going to fight. We're not going to let the left attack people here and there and pull people off, and we're not going to leave them high and dry. We're going to have a narrative. We're all going to share the same narrative. We're going to fight together as a team, and we are going to take back the state of North Carolina. I have the passion. I have the strategy to do it. And honestly, I have been fighting for other people as candidates for 11 years. For 7 years, I was fighting for North Carolina before I ever thought of running for something. So who do you want to represent you? Someone who's already been representing you? Someone who's already taken the arrows? Someone who's already been called all of the names and gotten all of the threats and all of the slander and all of the lies and gone toe to toe with the mainstream media and stood up and spoken truth to power, who's exposed corruption on both sides of the aisle, somebody who's willingly stood with President Trump, even though I've been called every name under the book? Or do you want someone who's been getting financially wealthy and they're just riding the coattails of President Trump and have never been engaged with you, the people of North Carolina? Do you really think that once someone goes to Washington, then they're going to be connected? Then they're going to be responsive? Then they're going to fight for you? That's not how it works. Usually it's the other way around. Alexander's asking, what will you do in the U.S. Senate to lower costs for everyday North Carolinians? Housing, healthcare, groceries. How will you measure whether it's actually working? Great question. Alexander, the first thing that we need to do is we need to stop every dollar that is going to someone that is not a legal citizen in the United States of America. We must stop funding the housing and the food and the education and the healthcare for people that are here illegally. So that is the number one thing that we need to do. Is we need an accounting. We need to stop all social services, government services for anyone that is not a citizen. And then we're going to have hundreds of millions of dollars here in North Carolina, I guarantee you. But also we need to focus on prioritizing. We need to limit the number of people that are in Washington, D.C. It has gotten so bloated that all of these costs are so high because there's so many people working in the federal government. I would be suggesting cutting the federal employees by 75%. And before everybody complains about, oh my word, but all these people are going to be unemployed, I say, whatever you are doing in the federal government in Washington, D.C., whether you're working in energy, in education, whether you're working in agriculture, whatever it might be, go and do it in your home state. Go and take your experience, take your passion, take your intellect, and go make the state stronger. What needs to happen is our federal government needs to shrink and the power needs to go back to local and to state agencies. Why do I say that? Because that's the easiest way to hold people accountable. It's much easier to hold your mayor and your city council and your local school board accountable than it is to hold those accountable in Washington, D.C. So that's one thing. We're going to get everybody off the payroll who is not a citizen. We are going to stop. We're going to limit the number of people and shrink the federal government size. The next thing we do with housing is I think we need to hold developers accountable. There is no reason why we continue to be charged property taxes out the wazoo every year being increased to deplete our quality of life. Ladies and gentlemen, do you really want rabbit hutches that are going to have 3,000 people down the road? Why aren't we incentivizing people to build homes that are starter homes? Why aren't we building $150,000, $200,000 homes so our young people can look at getting married or coming out of college and actually owning a home rather than renting an apartment for a mortgage that's right now, I'm sorry, for a rent that's right now higher than our mortgage prices? We've got to stop allowing things like BlackRock and outside entities to be buying up our farmland. We need to get China we need to buy back every acre of farmland or even just take it away from China here in North Carolina. Those are things that I will be doing. The other thing that we need to be doing is we need to be looking at corporate greed, because there was a reason